Hi, everybody. So before we start to move, just stand for a moment. Find a comfortable posture. If you're familiar with these arts and you've done this before, then you'll have an idea of what that may mean. And perhaps a bit more accurate with posture, but even if you haven't, just giving yourself a little bit of time to settle in. Just the sense of how it feels to stand and gently just sort of steering your attention, your thoughts into your body, but not necessarily trying to change things at this point. Although you may find again, if you're familiar with these arts, that just the simple awareness stimulates a change. Just allowing things to quieten and try and get a feeling of your weight dropping down through your feet, almost as though they're sinking into the floor. Maybe aware of your breathing, if that helps. Note of anywhere where your body that feels a bit tight or stiff or painful. Very gently with those areas. Gradually focus your attention a little bit more into that center part of your body, this area between hips and pelvis and waist. It's the part of the body you want to feel is beginning to drop towards the ground, as though you were just sitting down somewhere. Soften your knees, and again, with your attention in that center part of your body, just beginning to turn there, arms hanging down, feeling quite heavy, quite loose in your shoulders. So the movement in the center of your body beginning to move your arms for you. Let the movement build gradually. A relatively fast movement, this one, so you can perhaps feel the rhythm of the movement beginning to develop. It has a gentle aerobic aspect to it, this one. Sometimes it's easier to notice things like the rhythm of the movement, the connections in your body. Slightly faster movements like this. Your arms just swinging around, landing wherever they choose to land in the center, wherever they're placed. Give yourself a few moments just to be aware of what's happening. Movements in your upper body, patterns of expansion and contractions, which you'll probably notice in the first instance more in the big muscles of your back and your shoulders, but which actually is a rhythm that pervades the whole of your body, not just the muscles. A rhythm that hopefully your body will begin to resonate with. So again, this feeling of a connection between different parts of your body. This again feeds into this growing feeling of a collected quality in mind and body. That aids the sense of calmness in your mind, your thoughts beginning to settle into the practice, movements, postures, more able to be aware of what is happening, what is changing in your body. And this in its turn leads us to an intentional movement, one that is a result of a connection, an overlap between what we think of as mind, what we think of as body. In many ways, we will get the most out of this art if we approach it as a moving meditation rather than an alternative form of exercise. There's plenty of exercise, it's very physically based, of course, but the presence of the mind, the significance of mind is important. We become aware of three elements, sometimes referred to as the three treasures in Tai Chi. One that is most obvious, I suppose, is the body itself, the mechanics of the movement, our postures. And then the awareness, mind, tension. And finally, the movement itself, the flow, the rhythm, the energy, whatever label is useful for you to attach to these things, if it's useful at all. And these three elements should be seen as being interactive. There's not a hard division between them. They're mutually supportive. I sometimes think of them as being like the three legs of a tripod. Tripod as a whole has these three legs. Each leg is important. Each leg supports the other leg and is supported by the other legs. So again, this growing sense of the whole of yourself engaged with the movement. Trying to let extraneous thoughts settle in the back of your mind. We often find ourselves drifting off, thinking about what's happened or what's going to happen. But this is a chance just to be present in this moment without excluding those other thoughts, not fighting against them, but focused on the activity that we're involved in. So the whole art really works in an area of calmness, stillness that is capable of observation, both of movements that we're making, the practice, and also what's around us, but without what's around us disturbing that inner sense of calmness that can develop. Again, aware of areas that feel a bit stiff, tight, and very important intention. Perhaps the most important way that we approach those is with a calmness, an awareness of what is going on, and an intention to encourage movement rather than to force movement. In that quieter, calmer space, we do get a sense of spaciousness. Our thoughts settle, a clearer, more observant awareness. And physically, as tightness and stiffness begin to drain away from our bodies, more space for movement, both the mechanics of the movement in joints and muscles, and also the sense of the flow, the energy beginning to circulate, filling up those spaces, but not straining against them. Again, people with a little bit more experience, you can bring other factors into that. If you've got an area of the body, maybe your back is tight, you can begin to analyze a little bit, look at your posture, perhaps bring up a stronger intention to release in those areas. But this is something that we gradually learn to do. And one very important principle and one very important tension is that we want to move like water. We imagine moving through water, but we also imagine moving like water. That means following the path of least resistance, finding a way around those obstructions and allowing the movement itself to gradually wear those obstructions away, to dissolve them, to erode them. And we want to be a little bit patient with that process, not hurrying it, not forcing it. And turn your hands palm out and raise your arms up a little bit. Try not to stiffen up in your shoulders. This can sometimes give you a greater sense of how movement in the center of your body moves your arms for you. And this is something we come back to again and again in these arts, that although the arms are the most visible expression of what is happening in the body, that they very much follow. They are expressing the movement, shaping the movement, but not necessarily creating the movement. Letting your hands drop down. Put one foot forwards. Notice my feet are wide apart. You can see the background between my legs. Now just moving your weight forwards and backwards and letting your center turn in response to that. Doesn't matter which way it turns at this point. Just feel that connection between your weight moving, the angling of your feet, and the orientation of your body. Once again, your arms simply following and this positioning of your arms is actually a change of awareness. The most visible part again is our arms moving, and yet at the same time we want to put a major emphasis on other movements in the body, other changes in the body. And we are naturally orientated to pay more attention to our arms. We're hardwired to do that. So it requires a deliberate intention, a conscious intention to change, to shift our attention down into our feet, to our legs, to the center of our body. So this is a constant intention, and one that becomes simpler. The ability to shift our attention to, say, the center of our body is one of the things that we're actively training these arts. Change over. Notice whether again your attention has drifted off, particularly people with more experience. You know this exercise, it's this one again. It's easy to stand here and think about, we're going to do this afternoon, or those issues we have to sort out. But just again, allow them to settle into the back of your awareness. We don't need to deal with that right now. But give your legs a little bit of a shake. So thinking a bit more detailed about your posture, feet are hip width apart. There's some variation in that. We have to find the exact posture that works for us, rather than copy what everybody else is doing. But we want to feel that our feet are capable of supporting our hips. If they're too close together, that's harder. But it could be measured from the outside of your foot or from the insides. We're all slightly different, and that may also change. So again, people who are more familiar with these arts recognize that what worked yesterday, or certainly what worked last year, may be different now. Try and stay alert to that. Toes should be pointing forwards. You can have them very slightly turned out, but try not to let them splay out. And notice that if like me, you have feet that do seem to naturally turn out, they'll kind of drift out almost without you realizing it. Just let your weight rock forwards and backwards in your feet, pivoting from your ankles. So your weight goes back towards your heels and then forward towards the balls of your feet. If you go too far, then you'll start to stumble, of course. there's a limit to how far you can say lean forwards before gravity pulls you forwards. So moderate the movement a little bit, because that will create tightening tension in your body. And see if you can just become aware of a midpoint, some kind of point of balance, of equilibrium. So if I were to, for instance, take this pole, in theory, practice is very difficult, but in theory, I could find a way of arranging it, aligning it so that I could just let go of it and it wouldn't do that. Obviously, this is a difficult process, but as much as possible, we want to find a place to rest that is in line with the major force acting on our body, which is the pull of gravity. But when you begin to settle there, try and just again let your hips drop back, let gravity draw your hips back. So your knees, your thighs, buttocks, hips, lower back and belly, all just beginning to release a bit as though you were sitting into a chair. And this term releasing or softening, letting go is central to Tai Chi practice. And to give you an example of what that can feel like, if you hold your hand with a tightly clenched fist, you'll feel the tension going right up into your shoulder. Simply relaxing will drop the hand down, so there'll no longer be a structure there. But if you watch just there where my fingers are tight, if I just allow them to open up a little bit, there's now a little gap there, and that change from the really tight fist to the more open fist will help you to get a feel for that process of releasing, which then is guided into, is intentionally guided into areas again like knees, hips, and so on. You find it very hard, very strong in your legs. So this is the posture where we begin to become aware of what is possible within the exercises. And when we start to move, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but at least with them, we have some kind of idea of like a destination. Then let your hips drop back a little bit more and then push up. Try not to tighten up as you do this. What you're doing is allowing your center of gravity to sink. You can imagine it's almost like you're going to sort of squat down on the floor, but you don't go that far. Because what happens is you sink down and then gradually become aware that there's a push upwards. It's like you're in water, and as you drop into the water, you feel the buoyancy of the water beginning to push you up. The upward movement gradually fades away. The balance tips and gravity once again takes over and pulls you down. So we have these two forces, these two energies swapping over in the body. And we look for, again, a nice steady rhythm between the two. This is rooting down. We align ourselves with the pull of gravity. We allow our center of gravity to drop. Bring your hands around. Try not to lose that sense of what's happening in your feet. And as you push up, let the expansion in your body push your elbows out. Turn your hands over as though you have a ball underneath and you're in water and you're just dropping down to press the ball down into. Turn your hands at the bottom of the movement, and now you're pushing the ball up from your feet. So rooting down is the first exercise. Try and keep that observation of your body. And so note any changes in your back or your sides or the front of your body. Patterns of expansion and contraction. Wherever they happen to fall. Again, a quality, a movement that we want to try and encourage and intend through the different exercises. Letting your breathing come in whatever way is comfortable. Don't force a breathing pattern or a breathing method. Again, if you've been in my classes, well, I've talked about this, sometimes I do, then you might want to gently bring that into the practice if it's appropriate. The important thing is that your breathing feels comfortable and it will gradually regulate with the movement. As you sink down and push up, try to maintain that alignment with the pull of gravity. It can be tempting as you go down to lean forward, push the hands down further. That isn't necessary. Sometimes we find ourselves leaning back as we come up. There are lots of habits of movement that we carry with us that sort of get in the way of the flow. As we become aware of them, we want them to gradually change. So we start to just focus on new habits of movement and posture, moving from the legs, remaining in line with the pull of gravity, moving like water. And just go very gently with these. These cannot be forced and should not be forced. Now, as your hands drop down, this time turn them out so the fingers are pointing away, going into the second exercise, the wild goose, still sinking down in your hips. Got a feeling of your arms being pushed up from the ground rather than lifted up by your shoulders. Trying to keep, in particular, those big muscles of your upper back and arms quite soft, so that although they're being used, they're not straining. And this will encourage other elements, other parts of your body to engage. And so again, we get this sense of our whole body participating in the movement. And the effort begins to be spread through more of the body. And the benefits of the movement, the sense of the energy balancing, of our body physically toning, conditioning, goes very deep, goes beyond those primary muscles. Wild goose may carry an image that is helpful to you. Imagery is one of the things that we focus our intention through. We make use of the qualities of those images if it's appropriate. Now, letting your hands drop down and cross in front of your belly. This is parting the clouds with this nice sort of gentle, expansive quality, really spreading up from the ground to our feet and our legs, belly and lower back, chest and upper back, finally the arms, and then gently contracting downwards. Notice that at the end of the movement, the top of the movement, my arms are still quite bent. I'm not trying to stretch. And because we're wanting to cultivate that spaciousness within the body, we will always go to something like 80% of the full possible movement. We're not in these practices trying to actively stretch. Nothing wrong with stretching, it's just it's not what we're doing here. One more time. Then letting your arms drop down, aware of the weight of your arms. And the next time you push up from the ground, let that push one arm up. Again, not to its fullest extent. Wind around as though you're plucking something off a tree and pull down. Let your attention move to the opposite side, do the same thing there. Extend in between your foot and your fingers, and then up and down. This is called Dragon Plucks the Stars from the Sky. Notice if you have a tendency to speed up, to rush the change over from left to right, from right to left. And one way to counter that is to become aware of the center of your body. Your arm drops down, the fingers open, you feel the weight of your arm. You bring your attention first to the center and then to the opposite side. It's taking a little bit of time to let your attention pan across the inner landscape of your body. Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Try not to be too focused on the front of your body. Be aware of what's happening in your back and your sides. So part of your attention resting, part of your attention quiet and calm in that sense of being very centered, and it capable of an all-round observation, looking out from the center of your body to all parts of your body. One more time on each side. And just stand. So that process of observation is an ongoing aspect of Tai Chi. Imagine you're standing or sitting somewhere, maybe on a cliff top looking out at the sea, or sometimes this posture is described as though you're standing on a hill looking out over a valley. That part of your mind that is doing that isn't fixed on any one particular part. Other parts are directed. There's an intentionality there, but you can't do that direction from nowhere. There has to be that sense of stillness, and we train ourselves to find that in that process of bringing our attention into our center, and from there down into the ground. So there's a physical location, if you like, for the for that part of our attention to sit. For the next exercise, we don't go up and down specifically, but we do try and keep our hips dropping back. So we allow the flow of gravity through our body, pulling us down, and we allow that buoyant feeling, that rising feeling to come up. And bring your hands to that center part of your body. Push up. Bring your hands a little bit above your head, palm up, and then down, returning your hands, returning your attention to your center. Lift again, and this time let your elbows drop and push out. Once again, taking time to return. You may find that there's an inclination to rush that second stage, that drawing in. Your hands stay slightly in front of your body, so your back will feel longer, broader than your front. Just be aware of the sensations of movement in your back. Again, that sort of pattern of expansion and contraction. So somebody will massage in your back. And we're going to add 2 stages to this. Try and do this without losing that sense of movement in your back. As you push out, just turn in the center of your body and then turn back to the turn in the other direction and back, and then facing forwards, push out. It's just pushing in 4 directions. And those directions are largely determined by the angle of your center of your body. So pushing up, take your time, don't rush the changeover, give yourself just a moment in that quiet space before you move out again, expanding and contracting. and expanding and looking again to let your body settle into a nice steady rhythm. You mentioned moving through water as well as moving like water. And you'll find that that sense of resistance encourages not, not just a sense of relaxation, but also the development of a stronger quality. When we meet resistance, we will naturally engage more of our body. And when we meet the resistance of something like water, we do that in a way that is softer than if we meet a hard resistance. So we build a quality of strength that isn't dependent on tightness and on stiffness. So that feeling of releasing is a key element here. And that's something that we can begin to focus on in those contracting stages. That's usually the place where we're most likely to feel, again, that sense of releasing that I described earlier. But again, people with more experience, you should be looking to try and sustain that, particularly in the outgoing movements. At the start of those outgoing movements, notice whether you're habitually stiffening up or tightening, and again, look to be able to release. So we build a quality of inner strength in all aspects of the art, mind, body, and energy. I feel this is one of the great benefits of the art in all its aspects, martial, but also in terms of our health and well-being. So for the last time, pushing out sideways. Let your hands drop down again, aware of the weight of your arms hanging, and one arm gets pushed out, swinging out to the side and over and down the center line of your body. Imagine it's on that line from nose to sternum, navel. Once again, a movement out from your center and back in. This is a constant rhythm, expanding, contracting, yang to yin. And then if it's comfortable, once again, you turn, drawing your arm across slightly. Notice whether that causes a stiffening in your body. It's deceptively strong, this exercise. So the center of our body guides and shapes our arms. The other side. So again, those of you familiar with the movement, you could imagine the shape of the movement sort of projecting out from the center of your body, and your body's just allowed to flow into that shape. It's the game where mind, where intention really helps our movement. Once again, adding the term. Yeah, letting your arms just rest. Go back to this movement, sinking down and pushing up. This is a movement where we try and keep our pelvis level, and that helps to keep our body in line with the pull of gravity. Once again, beginning to become aware of the huge significance of the center part of your body. And then, as you sink down this time, very carefully push your hips back so your pelvis tilts. And as a result, your head and shoulders go forwards, and then let your hips drop back and feel how that brings your head and shoulders upright and push up. Be very careful with your knees and your back. I try and do the movement quite big so that you can see mechanically what is going on, but you don't have to do it that big. One of the key things here is to feel how yielding, allowing the pull of gravity to pull on your hips actually helps you to come into the upright stance. So rather than fighting against gravity, we make use of gravity. We're going to do this with two exercises. The first one is called rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. Our arms are pushed up, and as our hips go back and our shoulders go forwards, then the arms follow. Come back into the upright position, push up and start again. Rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. One more of these. And then bring your hands in front of your belly, turn a little bit. Then push your hips back. That pushes your hands forwards. Swing the hips across the other way, come back to the center, come up. Do the same thing in the other direction. Draws your arms around in a smooth circle. This is called polishing the table. From the back, you can see more what happens in my hips. I turn, it's exaggerated a little bit. Notice how my hips go across and then back to the upright position. Then I turn the opposite way. Just gently allowing back and arms to extend without forcing them. Remember, we want to leave space in the body for movement. So we would never want to go full extent to 80% of to the soft boundary, as far as we can go without experiencing again that sense of the body beginning to tighten and to grip, allowing the flow of the energy freely through the body. One more in each direction. Now, changing the stance, turn your left foot out, step straight forward with the right foot. So you maintain the width of the step. The length is about the same or a little bit longer. And now just once again, transferring your weight forwards and backwards. A little bit more attention to your posture. You may find that you're leaning forwards or backwards, but we use the legs to move the, not pulling ourselves forward, but pushing from the ground. So the connection to the ground is maintained, the root is maintained, and the alignment of our pelvis, the center of our body, maintained. So we begin to learn how to move through the space, but maintain that alignment with the pull of gravity. And this is important. We want to cease fighting with gravity. It's an overwhelming force that we will get simply bowled over by. So we don't want to exist with that constant strain. And as we discovered in the last couple of exercises, actually by yielding to the pull of gravity, by allowing gravity to pull our hips down, to pull our center of gravity down, we actually find a way of being upright without that strain, without that gripping feeling. So this is an important exercise to transfer your weight. If you have a sense of where you found earlier that sense of equilibrium when we were rocking our weight to and fro, try and make that your target. Think of, I don't know, playing golf and hitting the ball into the hole. You need to know where the hole is, and your intention is for the ball to go down that hole, and you're using the clubs and you're using your body to direct that. Once again, intention, awareness is an important quality here. When you come into your back foot this time, gently raise your toes and more of your weight will fall into the back foot. You have the front foot turned out, go forwards, push the back knee forwards. And again, there's a slight shift to bring you more into line with the supporting leg. What we're trying to do is to get to a point where our head is directly above that foot, not leaning forward or pulling back. Then just taking time to settle, don't be in a rush. And then see if you can just bring your foot in, push out, replace the foot where it came from, put the heel down, lower the toes, go forwards. The back foot in, and this time when you step out, again, go out to the side, push the ball of the foot down, then your heel, then your weight. So don't overstep. You want to try and get the foot down. You want to plant the foot down fully before you commit your weight. Imagine you're walking on thin ice and you want to just test the ice a little bit before you move your weight in. Now change over, go the foot forwards. This is a very good exercise for conditioning your legs. If you have problems with your ankles, your knees, your hips, as your legs conditioned, and it is quite a strong exercise, so we do need to practice it regularly for this to happen. But it means that your joints are supported. And so once again, we can get that sense of the movement through the joints because the muscles, the bones, the tendons, the ligaments are starting to function better. Remember I said, it's just when we get these things correctly, more of the body gets involved. So we take the strain off any one particular body. And it's important to try and take the strain off joints like your knees. We don't want to carry our weight on our knees or our hips. Once again, this becomes a useful exercise to develop that, cultivate that. Beginning to raise your toes in the heel. So there is a good deal of reconditioning that takes place in Tai Chi. Our approach to the movement, our approach to the postures, our intentionality here means that we're moving, standing, sitting slightly differently. And again, this is where we become aware of old habits of movements, of straining, of stiffening up. And we try and introduce other habits. But for that to be effective, body has to be prepared for that. There is a change in muscles, so on, that gradually happens, not as with any form of exercise. Stepping in. When you bring the foot in, try not to tilt over your pelvis. Likewise, when you push out, so that helps to maintain that alignment the pull of gravity, you're rooting down. And then wherever you've got space, forwards or backwards, take a few steps through. Trying not to stiffen up in hips or knees. Measuring your steps so that you can comfortably plant the foot before you transfer your weight. And this is an exercise that will have an impact on your everyday walking. Change direction if you haven't done so already. So finish with your right foot forwards. Now we bring the arms back in, and remember, your arms are moved by the rest of your body. So two really significant elements here are going to be the transfer of your weight, because that will move your arms for you, and the turn in your center, which will shape your arms for you. So again, a strong focus of attention in those parts of your body. Start with your weight back, hands resting on your belly. Push forwards. It's like a wave coming up through your body, pushing your arms out. They extend out a little bit, and then going back. It's this pigeon spreads its wings. Don't let your hands go too high, not above shoulder height, and they stay slightly in front of them. You may notice this having a particular effect on belly and chest. It can be a helpful exercise for your breathing, this one. Look again for that massaging quality in your ribs, your chest, your upper back. Rhythm of expansion and contraction. Do one more of these. This time, when you sink back, let your hands drop down again, aware of the weight of your arms. Push forwards, pulling your arms through, and then let them swing out. Go back, pulling your arms through, let them swing out. Again, a lovely wave-like flow through your body. It's called fisherman casting net. And just try and make sure that you're not leading with your arms. My arms are sort of dragging behind slightly until I settle into my back leg. Likewise here, they stay behind my shoulders and hips until I settle in. So again, very soft in your arms. Imagine doing this in water, and sense of resistance of the water will help you to keep that order of movement, starting in your feet and your legs, coming through the center of your body, transmitted through the upper part of your body into your arms. So a quiet, flowing dynamic begins to build in your arms, in your hands, in your fingers. Try not to stiffen up in the joints of your arms and joints of your fingers. This time, be a bit more active in the center of your body. As you go back, you turn. Your arms naturally curving down and up. And as we go back this time, turn, feel the expansion in the left side of your body, pushing your arms up, go forwards and turn, contracting, letting the hands swing past the front hips and up again, expanding in the right side of your body, back. So the combination of movement of your weight, turn in your center, and expansion, contraction in your upper body creates the movement, and your arms swinging through the shape of a sideways figure of eight, or infinity signs used in maths and physics. And again, you can maybe imagine the shape in front of you and simply allow your arms, the hands to flow through that shape. And once again, that requires a focused, clear attention and intention. So again, we can see how these three treasures of body, mind, and energy interact with each other. Take away any one of those and movement will lose an important facet. Shake out. So let's do those three movements with your other foot forwards. From the hip width stance, turn your right foot out a little bit, step forwards. To begin with, front toes pointing straight forwards. Sink your weight back. Hold your hands over your bed. Pigeon spreads its wings. All of the movements can be done with this feeling of moving through water, helping to build both the flow and that quality of inner strength. Notice where in your body you feel the patterns of movement. Always with that same smooth rhythm. And as though you were just being internally massaged, so the movement itself is gently massaging, bathing all the internal organs and tissues, and muscles, and so on. Releasing tightness and stiffness, allowing a much more vibrant sense of movement, much more balanced, much more harmonious. One more of these. Changing now to fisherman cast the net, bringing your attention to your back foot, pushing forward through the movement through your center and through your back into your fingers, and then back. So you're rolling a carpet out. Turning, your hands drop down, and as they swing up, just building that expansion in the right side of your body, and then forwards and down, hands coming across the hips. Shoulders following your hips, elbows following your shoulders. Wrists following your elbows, and your fingers following your wrists. So you're moving through water. And we're going to combine this with the step in that we did a few moments ago. Go forwards or backwards, again, depending where you have room. I'm going to go forwards. If you go forwards, you can turn the front foot out a little bit. Go into the front leg, and as you turn, let that turn help you to bring foot in. Same thing in the back leg. Bring your arms up, step through, planting your foot, and in. As you bring your foot in, just again, be aware of your posture, the alignment of your pelvis. And if it feels comfortable to do so, this time you bring the foot in and you can just raise the knee. Plant the foot, move in. And then change direction if you haven't done so already. If you are raising your leg, your hips will drop back to counterbalance the effect of your knee coming up and to help to maintain the alignment of your pelvis. And bring your feet down. Now, keeping your feet parallel, just rubbing your hands together. And the pads of your fingers tapping over your face. Quite a rapid but light movement over your head and neck. On your shoulder, your arm. Yeah, another good way of bringing your attention into your body. The other side. So good for helping to release those sort of residual tightness in the body. Lower back, just as much of the back as you can comfortably cover. Moving out and around hips. And then down the outside of your legs, the inside. Light on your belly. And the upper part of your chest. Now, our closing exercise brings us back to fundamentals of posture, fundamentals of the mind, in the sense that it draws our attention back to the center, from the center to the ground. So we finish as we started, coming back to that quieter space, that point of observation. It's called Embrace Tiger, Return to Mountain. Just sinking down, pushing up, starting with an expansion, but then bringing your arms around as though you're holding the ball against your chest. Elbows drop in, so your hands come in, turn them palm down, drop your hips, shoulders following, hands following the shoulders. Just resting for a moment and then pushing up. Embrace Tiger, return to mountain. Feeling the pull of gravity helping you to come back again to that point of stillness, that spacious quality, that calm quality in body and mind and energy. One more time. And thank you for watching, everybody, joining in. As always, if you do have any questions, please do feel free to contact me and I'll do my best to answer them. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.